Hi, I'm Liz Doles. I am the gallery coordinator at the gallery at the Belmont Media Center, here at the Belmont Media Center in Belmont, Massachusetts. We are very happy and proud to present the first solo show of our artist for the month of March, Carl Williams, who is showing a series of self-portraits. Carl, the title of your show, Don't Crush It, that's kind of provocative. Tell us more about that title, how it evolved.
You know, Liz, when I was in college, my track coach used to talk to us about his athletes putting a lot of effort in during their training. And then when competition day would come, they'd really try to up the intensity of everything that they were doing. And upping the intensity didn't necessarily beget better performances because they were performing well at practice. All it did was stress them out and cause them to crush it, you know, to get out there and try to overdo it. So I was hoping that this exhibition would be a little bit of a reminder to me not to try and overdo it, not to put so much of my energy into something that I'm trying to work on just because I feel like I need to do it perfectly or to make everything exactly what I want it to be. But, you know, I think that there's an importance to the intensity of my work. And I think that some of my art feels like it has a very serious tone. So I wanted to remind myself, like, let's not make this too serious. Let's allow it to be some serious art, but displayed and shown in a fun way.
Okay. Carl, you used the word intensity, and I think that's very apropos of all of your work. Self-portraiture, you're examining yourself. I know we were talking earlier and talking about your identity as an artist. So tell us a little bit about that identity and how you came to art and how you came to articulating your identity through your art.
I think that, you know, one of the experiences I had as a very young kid growing up here in America was being told that, you know, I'm part of this history of this country and looking at these American history books and never seeing anyone that looked like me, you know, never really seeing anybody who had the same skin tone or the same hair type. And wondering why is it that like my family or wherever I come from and the people who look like me's history isn't part of that like normal American history. So just because I had that recognition of there's not people who look like me in these textbooks, I think that my understanding of identity, you know, against the political background here of America, became really clear to me at a pretty young age. I think that it was at some point in college that I really wanted to find ways to creatively use my art to make affirmative messages, both about who I want to be and what I want my art to be about. I think a little bit of it is inspired by, Black cinema and the birth of Blaxploitation films. This idea that Black directors were seeing a need to show stories that felt more authentic to them.
We mentioned intensity, we mentioned identity. So let's talk about this piece in regards to those two issues. The identity, your identity in this pose, this gesture, this dramatic stick, the intensity, which I think is expressed by the size, for one. It's a monumental piece. It's life-size, really. And the intensity of the media, the dripping ink washes, the very dynamic ink washes, the intensity of the white highlights, and this horizontal horizon line viewpoint for your feet. Could you tell us more about that in terms of identity and intensity?
Yeah, I really appreciate how observant you really are of this work. I mean, I think that it's interesting that you talk about this line that the figure is standing on, partly because when I was first envisioning this, part of my inspiration came from some of the Japanese media that I love. You know, I was a big fan of Naruto and One Piece as a kid, and there's this image of a character, the older brother of one of the main characters, Sasuke Uchiha's older brother, I can't even remember his name right now, standing above his city, his town. And at the time, it's both sort of eerie and confusing and a little terrifying, but it's also sort of empowering. And you come to find out the importance of that character and protecting and taking care of his town, though he was labeled as an enemy in the moment. So I think a little bit of this is asking, you know, what is this line that the figure is standing on. Is this a telephone line? Is this just the horizon? Is he standing on the ground? I think a little bit of it, because of the drips makes me wonder, okay, why is this guy wet? Like what did this guy go through that has him dripping down all over the floor? I think that, it's sort of interesting that this is part of an exhibition on self-portraiture as well, because I think that of all of the work in it, this is the one that feels the least like a representation of me. When I was asked to do a large-scale drawing for my course in college, I had the option to do anything that I had wanted. And for some reason, I was just really drawn to this sort of stationary, dynamic, high-contrast image. I wanted to see what I could do using some of the inspiration I got from Eastern Asian art. I think that it being sort of long and sort of scroll-like is part of that.
Right, the vertical.
Yeah.
Yeah, the verticality of it.
I also love how the paper buckles and it changes and it moves and morphs because of how wet India ink is on the paper. I wanted something that took a little bit of the control out of my hand, but also allowed me to achieve something that felt highly rendered.
Okay. So identity, Carl, that leads me to talking about your interest in masks. And you said the big piece may not be as representative of some of the others of who you are as an artist. How does this piece with the masks and multiple views relate to you as an artist? What prompted you to represent yourself realistically and with a mask?
Liz, this work was something I had created at the end of my first drawing class at Bowdoin. This was my junior year of college. I had taken a class called African American Art History, and through that course I had gotten to see how a lot of different Black artists had represented themselves or aspects of what is their identity, as being African Americans or Black Americans. When I was trying to come up with the logic or the meaning behind this work, I think that I had been drawn in by the idea of masks as being a physical representation of the performative aspects of our life that we already have. Though, sometimes we put on a physical mask to show who we are or to explain something or to bring attention to a certain emotion or idea, I think we also wear these, unspoken, implicit masks, things that aren't physically put on, but that still definitely exist. So this work actually combines some of my inspiration from the artist Lois Mailloux Jones. Her work, Le Fetiche, included this discussion about Black art and African masks and how they had been in some way co-opted by American Cubists and European Cubists over the years. For that reason, I think that this work really excitingly includes a couple masks that come directly from Lois Mailloux Jones's work. It also includes one mask which I sculpted myself that was meant to look a little bit like a brain, as well as this completely made-up mask that never existed in real life, which was lending from sort of other visual illusions to sort of show two faces in one, both being a little demonic and a little bit confusing, but also intending to be sort of shiny and smooth or give a feeling of it. I also think that there's just something super funny about the idea of taking off your own face and there being a mask underneath your face.
Moving away from the idea of masks and identity, here are two pieces that reveal identity in a very intense way. And not only are they close-up self-portraits, they're also in full color. Can you tell us more about these two pieces?
Liz, I really have been seeking to work color into my art for a long time, but I find it really hard for me to work with the process of normal painting. I think it's something about like going to the palette and mixing colors and comparing the colors and seeing if they work and remixing and doing all of that. It doesn't necessarily work with my personal workflow. And I think what I really loved about the use of, India ink to do these sort of large gestural face drawings, some of which are in this show as well, was that I could make them fairly quick. I could come to a piece of paper and I could put everything down and have it done in a day. What I love about the media that I use for these, which is acrylic markers, is that I have a set number of colors, so I'm not going back and remixing. And I'm able to sort of sit down for a few hours in an evening or a few hours every couple days and really just put pen to paper and see what I can come up with. It doesn't require me to set up my studio for a big painting endeavor. And it allows me to sort of capture some of the more of the emotion or the motion of the moment, as opposed to trying to plan everything out ahead of time. Now these two drawings are planned in that I gave them a little bit of structure before I did put marker to paper. But what I really do love about the medium is that I'm able to make corrections, and these colors go on in a matte fashion that also allowed some really nice bleed through. So you can see the many different colors, you know, the slight pinks and the yellows, the reds and the blues, to really come up with something that's both colorful and dynamic, but also completed and fully realized.
Earlier, Carl, you and I were talking about how you see your role as an artist in political advocacy and community engagement. Could you say a little bit about that before we wrap up our chat?
When I was in high school, I had a teacher who used to talk to us about the purpose or the use of poetry and the value of it. And I think that some of her words really extend well to the art world as well. You know, she talked about using poetry either as like a window or as a mirror, either reflecting what people see in the world themselves or using art as a way to see somebody else's world. I think a lot of what I have on display in this project is a little bit of seeing my world, you know, or seeing things from my perspective. But I'm also really fascinated by, you know, finding ways to use my art to really reflect what other people see in themselves through the media of portraiture, you know. Mm-hmm. I think, you know, I've always been somebody who had a love for politics and history. Anybody who knows me would know that I love that stuff. And that really was started by watching TV shows like Parks and Recreation, you know, shows. Yeah, right. You know, and it's a show that's talking about people in their town that seem like a small town, small people, small problems, but that they put all this effort and all this energy into the community, into helping each other and trying to build something amongst themselves and for themselves, you know. And I think that, you know, one of the goals I have right now as a guy who graduated from college in May of 2023 is to find ways that I can become involved in my community, that I can get to know the town better and see this place, you know. So one of my aspirations was to get to know the community in some way, and coming here to the Belmont Media Center is one way that I feel like I get to do that. I think that public institutions or institutions that have a public-facing side, like a place like this, feel really important to me because, I mean, for one, it's given me this opportunity to show my work, but I also care about, like, what are the opportunities that we provide to people who might not have the resources, you know, who might not have the experience or the background to see themselves in this way. And I hope that I can, you know, continue to see myself as an artist, and this place helps me to do that. Carl, thank you so much for bringing your energy and work to us here at the gallery at the Belmont Media Center. Carl's show will be on view until March 29th, and we look forward to seeing you here. Thank you. Thank you, Liz. I really appreciate the opportunity to show my work here. Terrific.